And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside Los
Angeles. I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Phone number 888-659-3727. So great to be back here on The Bald Truth. As most of you guys know, I took a little vacation last week, and the great Andrew Zarian from the guys from Queens Network was my replacement. And of course, Joe from Staten Island, as usual, he was there. And I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to take a break. And I did have the chance to, obviously I called into the program, had the chance to check out the show a little bit, and I think you guys did a great job. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. If you are new to the broadcast and you don't know who I am or why I'm here, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and another book that was written specifically for women, The Truth About Women's Hair Loss. And I'm a guy who has been doing my best to educate hair loss sufferers through the radio, through the internet, through all of our online resources, obviously through my books, for the past 15 years. I am a guy who has been trying to help safely navigate hair loss sufferers through this incredibly treacherous $3.5 billion a year industry. You know, I was just, I did an interview today. I was interviewed for a magazine, and I'm not going to say which one because I don't think these reporters like when you kind of spill the beans that a story's coming out. But you know, this woman was extremely well-versed, actually. Probably one of the best interviews I ever had. She did a tremendous amount of research. She spent a lot of time on baldtruthtalk.com and on other resources, not just the Bald Truth resources and not just the American Hair Loss Association. And the one thing that she was able to decipher pretty early on was just how desperate young hair loss sufferers are. Now, she was telling me that her husband is dealing with hair loss, and he's concerned about it. I don't think he's that young. I don't know how old he is. But she really was able to kind of feel the angst, get a sense of the urgency that especially the young guys feel when they want to try to fix their hair loss. And we had a long discussion about that. And, you know, obviously, you all know that the issue with being desperate, the issue with trying to fix something right away, the issue with being a guy, because guys really just, you know, we don't necessarily talk about our issues. You know, I do. I'm one of the few guys, and that's why I do this program. But we want to fix things. And the problem with trying to fix something quickly without really doing your due diligence, to me, is pretty obvious. But to a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, it's not that obvious. They think that, okay, I'm losing my hair, I can just go out and get a hair transplant and that's it, I'm fine. Or I can just, you know, pop finasteride and all of my worries are going to be over. Or I can, buy some bullshit product or service out there and that's it. And sadly, that's how so many thousands upon thousands of guys every year get into trouble. You know, we created these resources to navigate you guys safely through this industry. And I do the best that I possibly can. But when you have resources like, for instance, baldtruthtalk.com, where, you know, you allow the exchange of information, where you create a community where people share their thoughts and their ideas and their concerns and their fears. And sometimes they share a lot of misinformation. something that this woman really was able to catch. And, this is, she's not, you would think that someone who is just trying to learn about hair loss would kind of take things, for what they are. They would think, oh, well, there's a bunch of guys writing about a certain product that they're getting from Europe, so this product must be legitimate because so many people are writing about it. But she really honed in on the desperateness of you guys. And I thought it was fascinating, and, hopefully this article is really going to kind of, delve into this world, not just, the typical hair loss article where people talk about, treatments or there's some levity involved. Who knows? Maybe there will be. But this woman really got to the nitty-gritty of the emotional aspects of hair loss and how the industry is run. And she was really interested in the fear that guys have about losing their hair. Let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. And that's what it is. It's fear. We do things out of fear. I spent thousands of dollars, even before I had noticeable hair loss, on bullshit products and services because I feared that I was going to become less attractive in a short period of time. Every day when my hair was going down the drain, I was panicking. And for some reason, I was lucky enough to have the wherewithal, and I had it back then, obviously, to step back and say, something isn't right. And that's what I try to advise you guys to do. When something is being newly, talked about, newly written about on the message forums, if you see an article in a magazine, if you read an anecdote of a guy in Brazil or someplace who has used some topical that he orders from some online pharmacy, and he's claiming to grow all his hair back, realize that you need to step back and not jump into this, not jump into something that can potentially harm you. 888-659-3727. And again, if you're new to the program, we're here to advise you, give you the best advice we possibly can on anything and everything hair loss. Here to guide you in a safe direction. Here to talk about surgical hair restoration. Here to talk about, just dealing as a hair loss sufferer in life. And maybe you don't want to do anything. I got to tell you, if you are equipped to do nothing about your hair loss, cut your hair short or shave your head, move on with your life, that is the best thing you can possibly do. I'm telling you guys, I wish that I was able to do that. I wish that for all of the enjoyment that I've gotten over the years in this career, and, seeing what I've built and enjoying the fact that I get to interact with a lot of great people, some not so great. I deal with a lot of bullshit too. I wish that I was just equipped to not worry about it. I wish that I didn't have to deal with the hairspray and the quasi comb over and the derm match and the medication. So if you can deal with it, if you're equipped to deal with it, my advice is turn off this show. Go on with your life. Don't go to the message forums. Do not obsess about this, because depending on what level of hair loss, where you're at in your hair loss, and also where you're at emotionally, it can drive you completely crazy. And I see it all the time. But if you really want to do something about your hair loss, if you don't think that you can deal with living life as a bald person, which I just, that's a choice that I made. I didn't want to live that life. Then we're going to do our best to guide you in a safe direction and give you the best advice we possibly can. 888-659-3727. Do not want to forget that obviously today is the anniversary of 9/11. And I'm very grateful that I am here today, because for all of my new listeners and viewers, I lived on the corner of Carlisle and Greenwich Street, a little less than 2 blocks, basically one big block and one small block away from the South Tower. I was there that day, almost did not survive. And, I'm happy to be here. So I just wanted to put that out there. 888-659-3727. Let's go right to the phones. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, Spencer, I obviously have to take tonight to devote this show to the thousands of people who perished on 9/11, the tragic attacks. But I have to be most thankful for the fact that you survived, Spencer, because as you know, you almost killed that tragic day in your apartment. You barely made it out. And God forbid we lost you that day. Just think, 11 years later, how many hell sufferers would have been butchered, would have killed themselves, would have ended their lives because you weren't there. All I have to say is, thank God that you were spared on 9/11. We love you, man.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
excuse me. My name is
Would you like to reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
Joe, thanks for that. It's interesting. I had a buddy of mine who sent me a text the other day. He brought his family back to New York, to his kid I grew up with, to visit the 9/11 memorial. And he took a picture of a name on that memorial of I could put his name out there. His name is Jimmy Gartenberg. And he was my very first friend in this life. As a baby, as a child, I guess our parents kind of, our mothers were friends and gave birth around the same time. And this is a kid that I, used to hang out with until third or fourth grade, something like that. And then he went to a different school. But he died. He perished that day. And there were a lot of people that I didn't know directly, but I knew through others who died that day as well. So it's heavy, man. When I think about it, it's really heavy. And when I see all of the images and all the footage, and I was one of those guys who basically was forced to run for my life with my wife, and I was one of those people who were just completely full of that. Whatever was in that debris, asbestos and everything that came apart from that building, that was pulverized, that was all over me. And that was really something, man. You kind of forget. You deal with problems, everyday problems in life. You kind of forget that you survived something like that.
Well, the point I'm trying to make, man, is God forbid, there were rumors by certain doctors, as you know, that we're not mentioning names, that you did perish that day. God forbid you did perish. The effects would have been a domino effect on hell sufferers. How many people would have gone to the chair, would have had transplants, whose lives would have been destroyed 10 years ago if you would have ended your career? The fact that you were saved many other lives. You understand the point I'm trying to make, my good friend Spencer?
I do understand that, and I certainly appreciate that, Joe. There are people, there are those out there that would disagree with you, but I certainly appreciate that, and I have to agree with you. Not to pat myself on the back, but I do believe that there would be a lot more walking wounded out there if we weren't able to continue to do this. But again, there are plenty of people out there that would disagree with you. For what reason, I have no idea, but they do.
No, they would have preferred you dead because not to.
Well, not just the doctors. There are, the online guys, as well. I mean, just complete strangers. It's just it's insanity.
Well, I personally thought, I lost contact with you for a couple of weeks. I thought you had perished, and I was actually freaking out at that point. Well, I was a police officer at that time, and I tried to call you. There was no answer. I was at the World Trade Center. I was kind of freaking out. I wish they would have dropped the second bomb when I was there, though. It would have all been over in my case.
Well,
I would prefer that. But
listen, when the first building fell, I thought that was it. I mean, it's absolutely impossible to articulate the sound and the feeling. It felt like the floor was coming out from under us, and everything just turned black, and we thought we were dead. For that, I don't know. It was probably like 12 seconds, something like. I don't know how long it took for the building to fall, but it was a completely frightening moment. I definitely thought that I was going to die.
Yes, I know you and your wife, were on the floor struggling to get out of your apartment. I know the whole
That's
story.
true. And common law basically, to this day, says that I used her as a human shield. I just happened to hit the floor first. I have better reflexes. That's all.
I just hope you had your hat on, man, to protect your hair from the dust.
Well, I was written up in a couple of articles after that, and also my story is written in a book. Never Forget the Oral History of September 11th, 2001, by Mitchell Fink. But in one article, I told the truth. I told the truth about the fact that I knew I had some time to get out. This is before the building fell. And I was watching the news. Common law had not, she was out shopping. She had not come back to the apartment. I could not get in touch with her. I decided to take a really quick shower, just so I can do my hair. And when I told the truth about that, I mean, these reporters, I mean, they butchered me. It was like a huge joke, but you understand it. I thought I had a little time, I figured take a shower, put a little Topic on. I was wearing Topic at the time, not Dermatch. Big deal.
I would have thrown a hat on if I were you, man. But easier, you know what I'm saying?
It absolutely would have been easier, but I figured, all right, common law is not home. I don't know what's happening. The first building was basically just hit, so I had a little time. But actually, as soon as I got out of the shower, I was on the phone with a buddy of mine, and I'm watching the television, and I actually see the shadow of the second plane coming, overhead. I see this huge shadow, and I'm watching the plane on television about to hit the second tower, and that impact threw me from my living room. I lived in a big loft on the 11th floor. We had the whole. It was a great apartment. Basically, had the whole floor. And it threw me about 4 feet. The concussion of that blast, of that crash, threw me about 4 feet. And I was almost 2 blocks away.
Yes. Well, as you know, I responded the following day as a police officer. As ironic as it is, I was hoping for another attack to end my life.
Well, that is ironic, and it's a little sick, but...
Yes, it is. You're correct.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your honesty, Joe.
I was hoping that my suffering would have been ended the second day, possibly another attack, maybe a nuclear or something to end the suffering, But it didn't work out that way. Here I am today, 12 years later, still suffering.
But I will tell you that when we were escaping, when we had to get back, first we went downstairs. We had to take the stairs, couldn't take the elevator. Went all the way downstairs. People were like, we can't get out of the building. And the people that were outside the building already coming in were covered with debris. There was, I lived on the top floor with reinforced windows. But several floors below, they were just regular windows. So people were screaming. They had glass in their hair from basically the windows, blowing in, and it was just the whole thing was absolutely it was mayhem, absolute mayhem. I went back upstairs, and got everything, got some supplies for common law and myself, got my cats, put them in a duffel bag basically, and I had the wherewithal to get my credit cards and my Topic. I didn't want to be without my Topic.
Yeah. Well, your major concern was not your life, but really your hair that day. Am I correct?
No, it was my life. It was first. It was my life. Well, I would say first it was common law's wife. Then it was wife. Then it was my life, and then it was my hair. And, of course, my cats.
Yes. Well, several doctors, I won't mention any names, spread rumors that you had perished that day.
I don't know if they spread rumors. I know there was one doctor who I had on the show
Don't
not
mention
too
his
long
name.
ago who said to another doctor that, he kind of wished that I would have perished.
God forbid. God forbid.
Well,
all right. Well,
let's get to the hair stuff.
Yeah, a lot of sufferers. First of all, I want to take this time to congratulate Andrew Zarian, who filled in for you last week, on a fantastic job, and I'll give myself a pat on the back for kind of being a second banana last week.
I thought, Joe, you did a great job, man. I didn't have time. I was half cocked. I was loaded. Just coming up and down from the bar. I wanted to go and I wanted to call in and check out the show for a few minutes. For what I did see, you guys did a great job, and we'll be posting it on the Bald Truth. So,
well, I do appreciate that. Andrew, as you know, he's a beautiful boy.
Beautiful boy.
He's really a very handsome boy, and he's really
gorgeous boy.
Great. Beautiful,
unbelievable,
staunch, handsome, nice body. If I was a woman, I'd want to have sex with him.
Dude, you want to have sex with him and you're a man. Just admit it.
No, man. I am totally asexual. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Now, the sufferers of the man in the news. It's been a very busy news week, as you probably know.
Andrew's been told Andrew's been told he has the prettiest eyes in podcasting.
He does have beautiful brown eyes.
Why do you think I keep him around? We need good looking people on this thing.
Well, I'm not I'm not posted on the internet, but when in my younger years I was somewhat attractive, but now I'm old. But whatever.
You're looking good, Joe.
I appreciate that, man. I really do appreciate that.
Okay, so let's get to the hair talk before the natives really get restless.
Okay. The sufferers are attacking me already.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, as you know, I have to castigate one sufferer tonight, if you don't mind, and I'll get to the news. Eric on thebaldtruth.com. This guy has a quasi-obsession with me. He's always attacking me. He thinks that I work for L'Oreal for some reason.
Isn't that the guy that says I'm wearing lipstick?
Yes, the same guy, the same, shall we say, individual.
Yeah.
He's saying I work for L'Oreal. He accused you of wearing lipstick on the air. Now he's saying I work for L'Oreal and being paid a tremendous amount of money to promote their product. First of all, I've never used their product. I've never said it works. All I said is a lot of science behind it. Well, does it work? I have no idea. Have you used it? No, because it's not available in the United States yet. It is now available in Europe, as you know, Spencer.
Yes, and listen, when people stop talking about you, Joe, that means you're irrelevant. So just enjoy it. Apparently I have great looking lips. I just you just have to enjoy that stuff. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass, especially when people defame you and shit like that. But it is what it is. You're a public figure.
I am.
Of course you are. Dude, there's thousands of people that listen to you every week, man. You have to realize, and they've been doing not millions over the years, but there are thousands of people that listen to you every week. And
I appreciate that.
And they know who you are. You've been written up in several articles over the years. So I mean, you're kind of like a hair loss community icon, in a sense. Not in a sense, you are.
Well, thanks to you, you've made me what I am today.
Let's move past the stroke fest, man. So what else is going on?
Okay, there's a lot of news. As you know, Spencer, it's been a very, very, very busy news week. Well, you've been on vacation, but I've had a very exhausting week with all the news coming out.
All right, let's talk about
it. Let's get to the news. All right, Dr. Costarellis to the news. There's a chemical out, TM300, was supposedly a PG2 inhibitor that Dr. Costarellis is supposedly involved with.
Yes.
I have no independent knowledge of this. I don't know. I don't have inside information like certain other people on the message forums, and I mean that facetiously.
Right.
No one really knows what the hell's going on.
No, they don't.
He's in negotiations with Merck and other companies, and people are now trying to get this stuff off-label to use on their scalps.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I understand the desperateness, and that's one of the reasons why I brought up my conversation with this reporter, because I understand how desperate people are, but they're willing to put any shit on their head without worrying about possible implications, adverse implications. And that I understand that. I understand, especially when you're young, man. I mean, hair loss sucks. You will do anything, try anything. People buy shit from each other through message forums. People are buying stuff through eBay. It's insane. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. My second piece of news, as you know, in yesterday's Wall Street Journal, there was a big article about research from Japan, and supposedly vitamin D receptors play significant, shall we say, importance in male pattern baldness. Did you dissect the article yesterday, Spencer?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. And one thing that I want to caution people, people have already been writing us through the American Hair Loss Association about, and they're asking questions like, how much vitamin D should I take? It's not about how much vitamin D you have, or that's or that you're getting, or that you are converting from the sun, that your body's converting from the sun. It has nothing to do with that. It's about the receptors and how they react to the vitamin D. And I just wanted to put that out there, because people now think that they read the article and they think, I'm going to overdose in vitamin D. Most people are deficient in vitamin D. That's true. But even if you have normal levels of vitamin D or high levels of vitamin D, it's not going to help you with your hair loss. I wanted to put that out there. But go ahead, finish your thoughts.
You know what the irony is? I've had massive blood tests, I suffer I have excessively high levels of vitamin D in my body. So, I mean,
how is that possible?
Obviously, it's that
you never go in the sun. Okay, I mean, all you eat is steak.
Yes, and pork and lamb. Meat. I ingest meats on a daily basis. Well, my latest test shows, a lot of vitamin D.
That's amazing.
All right, my third piece of news is David Hall appeared in New York today to speak about Replicel. The bottom line, I never chance to, it hasn't been online yet to dissect the report, which will be online probably tomorrow. He appeared today in the Waldorf Astoria on some type of conference that the Replicel is entering phase 2 of their product.
Right.
There's a lot of high hopes for it. So, I don't know, whatever that means. I'll report back to you next week if you don't mind, because the online article, the online conference has not been posted yet.
Right. I don't mind you reporting back to me next week, Joe. And again, I think it's exciting stuff. But I try to be, I try to temper my excitement about anything nowadays, because if I say something seems promising or something is exciting, all of a sudden I'm getting attacked online about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm promoting something that doesn't work. This program really, at least I thought it was for many years, a place where people can, come talk about, obviously, their hair loss situation, but also talk about the latest and greatest, what's happening in the world of hair loss. And if a doctor is working on a technique that seems promising, and I have that doctor on the show, I am not endorsing a technique and saying to run out and have something done. What I'm doing is I'm trying to educate and provide you guys with really up-to-the-minute information in this crazy world of hair loss. And if something seems exciting, if Spencer Kobren says it's exciting, all of a sudden everyone's jumping on it. You know what I mean, Joe?
That's true.
And then if something doesn't work out, it's a big issue.
Well, you're a journalist. You're reporting the news. You're not endorsing the news. You're a journalist. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. Look, I don't tell anybody. I haven't gotten a hair transplant. I haven't gotten a hair transplant because I'm not a candidate for a hair transplant, in my opinion. I'm concerned about potential shock loss. I'm very comfortable with the fact that I have enough hair to work with, even though sometimes it's not perfect. It is what it is. But I'm comfortable in my life at this stage of my life, at this point of my life, where I don't want to take a chance and have cosmetic surgery or this type of cosmetic surgery because I'm concerned about the possible. I just don't think that the benefits, in my mind right now, outweigh the potential risks. But I talk about hair transplantation. I founded the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons.
Yes, right.
Say that again?
No, in your case, you have a significant amount of hair. I've seen you in person many times.
Well,
you have a beautiful head of hair. You use a couple dozen grafts to fill in, your recession of hairline.
Right.
Than the crown, as you said, but that could cause you to lose 10 times more hair.
Right.
That's a possibility.
Right. But my point is, we talk a lot about surgical hair restoration. I've educated, and now, millions over the years through my books and through this radio program about the reality of surgical hair restoration. But does that mean I have to go and jump and have it done? And if I don't have it done, does that mean there's an issue with surgery or any other treatment? So it's just exactly. So this is the type of stuff that that we deal with and that I deal with. And now I'm kind of like I'm getting to the stage of my career where I'm like, you know what? If I bring somebody on the program, if I do the which I did the Co and Go interview, which we will have up very shortly.
Yes.
I don't want people to think that's an endorsement of a specific technique, whether it's him or somebody else. I am just getting the information to the public, and I want to make that clear. What I endorse doing your due diligence. I endorse really researching. I endorse doctors in the IHRS because I believe that these are the best doctors currently in the field of surgical hair restoration. That's it. If you're going to have surgery, these are the guys that I think are the safest guys to choose from. But I don't sell surgery, and I would tell you to avoid it if you can.
Yeah, I wish I did.
It's a last resort, man. Surgery it could be life-changing. So many great hair transplants being performed today, but there's so many bad ones. So many bad ones.
Life, all right.
And if you don't understand the possible complications, and I say this all the time, best doctor in the world could have a bad day. The best doctor in the world, you can go in, you can do all of your research. You could see 100 patients in person. And you could be that unlucky patient. Does that mean that this doctor is a butcher? Does that mean that, getting information from our resources or other resources is misinformation? What that means is that's the luck of the draw. It's cosmetic surgery. Just want to put that out there.
No, definitely. So I want to comment on one doctor. Should I comment on one doctor first, what he wrote, or should I comment on his news? What do you prefer, Spencer?
Say that again.
I know you have a lot of other calls. Your switchboard is lit up, but I have two more things I have to state, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I want to comment on one doctor who wrote something that really upset me, but a hair transplant physician. Should I comment on him first or the Histogen news?
Comment on him first. That sounds interesting.
All right, this cat, he's obviously not an IAHRS member. I won't mention his name, but he writes a balding blog. I think you know who I'm talking about.
I do. You can mention his name. You can say whatever you want.
Well, I'd rather not, because I have a big problem with this guy. So I'd rather not mention his name.
Okay.
Unless you prefer, you'd like me to.
No. If you feel uncomfortable mentioning anybody's name, don't do it.
Yeah, rather not. But yeah, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. I mean, I was really shocked that this cat put 4,400 grafts in a cat who was like a Noah 2 to give him a beautiful frontal hairline. It looked great. Don't get me wrong. But he exhausted 70% of the guy's donor area to give him a great hairline. I mean, what happens if this cat becomes a Noah 6 or Noah 7? I mean, what's going to happen then? I mean, I, in my expert opinion, I thought it was kind of irresponsible for him to even be doing that.
Now, where did you see it? It was posted. Where was it posted?
On his blog. You can go to it, theblankblog.com, and you could see it online. This cat posted like 40 grafts, and the guy was like a Noah 2, Noah 3. Give him a great hairline, but he exhausted like 70% of his donor area. I mean, what happens if the guy receives a Noah 6? What happens then?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with this guy. There was a time that I believed that, he really acted responsibly, and there was a time. There's no doubt that he was cutting edge. When I wrote The Bald Truth, he was one of the doctors that I wrote about because he was really promoting follicular unit transplantation, which at the time was like it was amazing because I was going to write a derogatory chapter completely, basically saying that hair transplantation was a bad idea. Until I met Bob Bernstein, and of course I know you're talking about, Bill Rassman, because you mentioned Balding Blog, and Bill Rassman.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Billy Rassman, okay.
Yeah, and so I have to give Bill Rassman his props, and his respect for really pushing the envelope of follicular unit transplantation, really discussing and writing the papers with Bob Bernstein about doing pure follicular units as opposed to cut-to-size grafts or mini or micrografts, which was what was being done at the time. And it really did change the field. Now, let me give the proper respect to Dr. Bobby Limmer and, of course, Carlos Ubel from Brazil for, Bobby Limmer basically was the guy that discovered follicular units or, understood that, when you look at hair under a microscope, they grow in these natural occurring bundles, and these are the bundles that should be separated into grafts as opposed to just cutting grafts haphazardly. And Carlos Ubel is the guy that was really doing the single hair grafts and the follicular units in big sessions. So these guys, in my mind, really were the true pioneers in modern day hair transplantation. However, Bill Rassman marketed the hell out of it. He got it out there in a way that nobody else did. And it really helped to change the field. And it got my attention. And it got my attention to the point that I wrote The Bald Truth, and I wrote that surgical hair restoration chapter around Bernstein and Rassman's work, which is, I'm told, and this is what, in the industry, the way that it works is, sadly, unless there's some sort of financial incentive or pressure or, fear of loss or whatever it is, nothing really changes. People are content with the status quo. But, the Bald Truth really did put a lot of fire under these guys' asses to kind of, evolve their practices. And I have to thank Bill Rassman and obviously Bob Bernstein for introducing me to follicular unit transplantation so I could write that chapter, and it really did change the field. So, but I know what you're saying. I just wanted to give Bill Rassman his props because, I definitely think he deserves some respect. But he's getting older. I don't know what it is. Things are changing. Maybe he's becoming more aggressive. I know that he's doing this, the permanent, scalp micropigmentation. He added that to his practice. There's a lot of things that a lot of people are questioning. But I do think that he deserves his props because he definitely did a lot for the field.
No, I'm saying the guy was great, but he used 70% of a cat's donor area to fill in a hairline. How this cat becomes an 0 6 and 7, which is very possible. I mean, what happens then?
I think it's a bad idea. I think that it was something that shouldn't have been done. How old was this guy?
In his 40s. I think he'd become an 0 7 5 years later.
He can, but
very possible.
But let's give Rassman the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he, this patient was fully informed. Maybe he said, listen, I can give you this really dense hairline. It's very possible that you're going to lose hair behind it. You have to be equipped to deal with that. Is this what you want? A very dense hairline that's going to frame your face, that where you can comb your hair back. I will give you an example of someone who I think looks really good with that type of a hair transplant. Dr. Alan Feller had his hair transplant performed by the late, great Dr. David Seeger.
Yes, Alan. I've met Alan several times. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I don't know what you think about his hair transplant in person, but you have to understand that Alan, Dr. Feller, is like a Norwood 6. I mean, this guy was really bald at a young age. Now he has a lot of hair in the front, which is very stylable. It looks, to me, very natural. And yes, he has a balding crown. I mean, the last time I saw him, which was years ago, he did. I don't know if he still does. But, I mean, that hair transplant and the way, that dense packed hair transplant that Seeger was famous for, actually. He passed away a few years ago. But it was a great job. I think it probably really changed Dr. Feller's life. So maybe this guy is prepared for the possible progression of his hair loss. And maybe this is what he wants. Who knows? So I think it's reasonable if you're a 40-year-old man, if you are well informed, I think that surgery like that might be reasonable. But you have to be well informed.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It really upsets me. Like, people in their 40s and 50s who haven't experienced hair loss, they think they're, like, somehow immune from it. Like, I saw a movie, you're familiar with the actor Alan Alda.
Yes.
He had a full head of hair all his life.
Yes.
And now in his 60s, he's now like a Norwood, I'd say Norwood 5.
Yeah, but that's very common. That's very common. People think that they're safe. Andrew had this prick on his show a few weeks ago, and
I mentioned that.
Yeah, and he was talking about he thinks that he's past he's almost 30 or he's past 30 and he's got a full head of hair that he's not going to lose his hair. The truth of the matter is it's a ticking time bomb. I've known guys it didn't start till 40, and you think that you're told, and this is what I learned when I was learning about the hair loss, and this is what a lot of doctors will tell you, that the later you start your hair loss, the slower it progresses. That's not necessarily true. I've seen guys at 40 go from a Norwood 2 to a Norwood 6 in 3 years.
That's my cousin. I saw him at a wedding. He had a John Travolta head of hair. 3 years later, he was in Norwood 6.
Yeah, and then you got a guy like me who started the balding process around 21. Obviously, early intervention for me was the key with medication. But I don't know what my genetics would have brought me. For me, I think I lucked out with the combination of genetics and medication worked really well for me. But I did start balding at a relatively early age. Not very early, but, around 20, 21 years old. The school of thought throughout the hair loss community is the younger you are, the faster you're going to progress and the more you're going to progress. And that's usually the case. But there are guys who may see some hair loss at the age of 20 or 25. They get a little bit of recessed hairline, and it stops. So you really just don't know. But, Joe, I have another call on the line.
Just one more quick thing out the one piece of news, quickly.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Histogen has completed its phase 2 studies in June of this year. Gail Norton will be reporting next month on the phase 2. What's happened to phase 2 on Histogen.
And
whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, I have no idea.
Everybody's asking me for the pictures that Dr. Craig Zarian said that he would send over, and for some reason,
I'll bring that up.
I have not received them. But Craig has been traveling a lot, and so I can't blame him. I'm going to email him again. I actually got a couple of emails when I was away about it, and I will email him again and see if, in fact, we can get those pictures up on Bald Truth Talk.
These suffers don't even leave you alone when you're on vacation, man.
Dude, let me tell you something. My job, man, it never ends. It never ends. Vacation for me, it's not really 100% vacation because I always have to be connected. That's the problem.
You never disenfranchise.
Always have to be connected, man. And, I was talking to Common Law about it. I always talk about retirement. I talked about it. I had a few drinks in me when I called the show last week.
Yes, I love you.
There are times when I just want to be completely off the grid. Like basically, change my name, and just close my Facebook and Twitter and everything else, close down all the sites and just say, gone fishing, and that's it. I really feel that way sometimes. But I also enjoy what I do for the most part. There's a lot of aggravation involved in it, and it's a lot of work. But, I'd miss you, Joe.
I appreciate that.
All right. So
I know you're going to call in. Let me say one final thing. Thank God you were spared on 9/11, because the fact that you were spared thousands of other people from a horrible fate.
All right, Joel. Thanks for that. Let's see who this is.
God bless you, man.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Spencer. It's Andrew.
Andrew, what's happening, man? My my new guest host, Andrew Zarian.
I subbed in.
It was great, man. So I was thinking, I want to do that more often.
I'll do it more. I had a great time.
All right, so we're gonna work it out. We got to get you a little bit more versed on the whole world of hair loss. You're getting there. You've learned a lot since you've been watching the show.
You know what it was? I have a lot of opinions, but I didn't want to say a lot of stuff because I don't want to upset people my first show.
Why not? That's what it's about, man.
Because I know how people get. They get a little worked up, and I've gotten into a couple arguments in the chat room in the past. I didn't want to work people up. My first appearance as a guest co-host. So maybe next time I'll lose my mind a little.
I'll tell you, you got a lot of compliments. People are complimenting on your studio, on your hair, best eyes in podcasting.
The
prettiest eyes in podcasting.
Yeah.
And no, but you and Joe did a really good job. And it was interesting to kind of sit back and listen to the interaction. Like I do listen every once in a while. I'll listen to a replay of the show, but I try not to because it's just I got so many things I got to do, and then it's just like it's kind of like when someone is in the movies or something or on television, they don't like to watch themselves.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to kind of sit.
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Joe Tronic was great. He was a great caller.
Oh, Joe! Listen, Joe Tillman is always a great caller, man. He should call the show more often. But again, he gets shit when he calls the show. He ends up saying something, and he gets shit online.
I know it's
amazing.
It's crazy. Joe doesn't. Everybody loves Joe.
Actually, surprisingly, Joe, you're brought it up, by the way. Surprisingly, Joe does get shit online. People think that Joe somehow is heavily involved with these companies, or that he knows when the cure is coming out, or he's somehow, in cahoots with, whatever. And it's ridiculous, right, Joe?
Yes, I don't make any money from that. Andrew, you did a great job, by the way. I give you an A+. I awarded you that on the air.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I'll tell you, I actually believe that Joe does have the cure. If he doesn't have the cure in that fanny pack of his with all of his pharmaceuticals, I don't know if there'll ever be a cure.
Well, he definitely has the cure for something in that fanny pack.
There's a cure for something. In there.
I have the cure for anxiety. Yes, I have the cure for that. I take several psychotropic medications. But as far as hair loss goes, I have no cure. I'm not on anybody's payroll. They think that I am. These sufferers out there.
Dude, I haven't seen a fanny pack. I haven't seen a fanny pack, I think, since like 1983.
Well, Joe's bringing it back.
I don't normally know wear it, Spencer. I wear it when I come to the city.
I'm just saying, you're bringing it back, Joe. You're bringing back the fanny pack.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Maybe I do it. Well, I carry my medications in there, in my wallet and things like that.
No, but we did. We were at Blog World. I did see you go into that fanny pack multiple times. I mean, that thing basically. Yes. Initially, you had it zipped and you were zipping it and unzipping it, but by the end, it was just completely unzipped because you were putting your hand in that thing.
There was a point that he actually unzipped it and he showed me the insides of his fanny pack and he shook it a little bit. It was almost like he was showing his junk to me.
Yes, I had to.
It was very erotic to someone that likes pills.
Yeah, well, who doesn't like pills?
Well, I'm addicted to Andrew. I'm a hell of a sufferer. I'm addicted to pills. So, Andrew, I think Spencer should give you some type of a trophy or something for the great job you did on the air last week. I have to.
Yeah, I was expecting a Golden Forehead Award to be shipped, but I never got it.
Oh, that's actually very funny. You know what his reward is? He's going to get to do it again.
And I'm very excited to do it again.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll
maybe we'll have a couple doctors on next time.
I think that'll be great. You can do another live densitometer thing, perhaps.
I was planning on doing it, actually. I was planning on doing a live densitometer, and I couldn't get it to work like 5 minutes before the show.
Okay, that would have been good. But I know this. You did it. You did a good job. It's not easy, man.
No, it's not. It's not. But I called in. Today is the 11th anniversary of 9/11. I know you guys were talking about it a little bit, and Spencer and I have had many conversations, while drinking about 9/11. And I'll tell you, this year it was a little weird for me. It almost seems like it was the first year that people were kind of functioning on this day.
That's interesting that you said that, because even though I'm always thinking about it, I wasn't, like, normally on this day I kind of almost take the day off, and I sit there and I just watch the news, and I just watch documentaries, and this year I didn't do that. I worked all day. I did watch obviously a little bit, but I noticed that. I just kind of noticed it, and nobody mentioned it. I must have I was on the phone with like 50 people. This reporter didn't mention it. No doctor mentioned it. Nobody. I mean, you're right about that.
It was weird because New York, if any, I'm sure many of your viewers are from New York, it was eerily similar to that day. First of all, it's on a Tuesday like that day, and the weather was identical. And there was an eerie thing about that day, Spencer, and you'll remember, the wind was not blowing.
There was no wind that day. That was
zero
yeah.
wind.
Yeah.
And I remember being out, and I was thinking, I'm like, wow, look how perfect it is. I mean, it's like a painting. Not even the leaves are moving. And I was looking out of my window this morning, like, wow, it's really similar to that.
Yeah.
And the weather was absolutely perfect. It was a beautiful September day in New York.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It's funny. We were actually supposed to go to, me and Common Law were supposed to go to Atlantic City. Was it that day or was it the day after? And her aunt was going to, Common Law's aunt was going to stay in our apartment to watch the cats and to kind of hang out and kind of get a break from her place. And she was out shopping to get stuff for her aunt and also stuff for the animals. And, you just never think, obviously you never thought anything like that would happen, but that's the way life is. We live our mundane lives and we worry about the shit that we worry about day in and day out, and things change in an instant. When these guys went to work, when those 3,000 people went to work that day, and they kissed their wives goodbye or their husbands goodbye, they had
Nobody
clue
thought it.
that something like this was going to happen. I mean, and anything can happen to anybody at any time. Listen, I deal with a lot of stress, that, and sometimes I just sit back and say, obviously I survived this. I dealt with losing my brother and all kinds of shit in my life. You could die of a heart attack in a second. You get hit by a car tomorrow. You got to really enjoy what you got. And I'm telling you this because I'm telling you this because you really, you're pretty neurotic. You're like me.
Oh yeah. But I mean, we've spoken about this. A lot of my insanity comes from 9/11. So.
Does it really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was totally normal prior to 9/11.
Wait a second.
Totally normal.
Explain this.
I didn't have my neuroses. A lot of my neuroses, my obsessive compulsive behavior. I didn't have that. I think Jessica's raped and killed every time she leaves the house. So.
Yeah. Well, I told you I have that issue too. But mine is because my brother was killed.
Yeah.
But listen, man, I still have post-traumatic stress disorder to some degree from that. I remember that the next day I was in some stranger's house in Staten Island, and I'm not going to go through the whole story, but this wonderful woman basically saved us. There was no place. We had to escape to Staten Island. There was no hotels, no place to stay. She let us stay in her home. You know what? I didn't call her today. It's funny because I called her for the last 10 years. And I would just hear when I was hearing the fighter jets, overhead, it just gave me such anxiety. And to this day, when I hear planes, sometimes I get a little tang of anxiety.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was 17 when it happened, so I was in that age where you're untouchable. You're 17 years old. You got a car. You got a girlfriend. You got a part-time job. Putting a couple $100 in your pocket. You're on top of the world.
It was like me. I was 36. I was untouchable. Go ahead.
You were untouchable, but unfortunately, I was in the prime of my life. You were coming towards 40.
Oh my God! Thank you for that.
But but I remember, it happened, and it was extremely. I mean, it was such an awful thing, and it was the first time in my life that I actually felt that, oh my God, I'm vulnerable. Something bad could happen to me.
That's right.
And you go to bed, and I remember waking up, and it was like a new day. Okay, it happened. Until I went outside, and it was the smell that did it for me.
Yeah.
That smell, I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's something that I can't ever get out of my head. I mean, it's almost like it's etched into my brain, that smell.
Yeah.
Of death, carnage. I can't ever explain it, but for people that were there and saw it and were in New York that day, everybody knows that smell. Yeah. And the sky was yellow. Yeah. It really looked like Armageddon.
Yeah, it was basically like, it was definitely felt that way. And that day, I kind of, I don't know if I can compare it to being in war, but I kind of sense that that's what it feels like, except I didn't have a gun.
Yeah.
There's no firefight. When I was escaping, when we were escaping, and we were basically, it was like running in the sand or trying to run in the sand because there was so much debris on the ground.
Spence, I think for countries like, let's say, like Israel and the Middle East and even Europe, you're so close to people that could potentially do something to you. It's always there.
Yeah.
You always think, something could possibly happen. I mean, England got bombed during World War II. France was destroyed. Italy was destroyed. So these are countries that have gone through war. And even though, people in my generation didn't go through that, it's still there. I mean, you still learn about it. We have nothing to compare it to in America. We've never
the closest thing was
had
Pearl Harbor.
a war like that.
Yeah, the closest thing was Pearl Harbor.
But Pearl Harbor was not on the mainland.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, this is the first time in this country's history that we actually had an attack done on us to that extent.
Oh, it was awful, but it was a military attack. It was scary as shit. It was really heavy, man. It was really something, Joe. You there, Joe?
And now we're talking about hair loss.
Yeah,
I want to give Andrew his props. I was there, responded there the next day, and I was hoping for a second attack on, that I was killed that day, to be honest with you.
All right.
So let me ask you. Forget it. I'm not going to ask him. It's a little morbid.
Go ahead, ask him.
No, ask me.
I was going to ask him if there were two people to save, and one was a sufferer and one wasn't. Which one would you pick?
I picked a person with full head of hair because the sufferer had nothing to live for.
Oh man. Jesus. All right, guys, listen, on that note, I'm going to take a break. Andrew, thank you so much for calling in, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, guys.
All right, take it easy.
And thank you.
Sure.
And
right.
the millions of hair loss sufferers, I want to thank you for substituting for Spencer last week. You are a beautiful
thank
boy.
You, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, Joe really fantasizes about you, by the way.
I hope he does.
If I was a woman, you better watch out, Andrew.
Jesus.
Okay. I'll tell Jeff.
All right.
I do bad things to you.
All right, I'm getting very uncomfortable. 888-659, see you guys. 888-659-3727. Give us a call. This is still the hair loss show. Obviously, we're talking about 9/11 as well. But feel free to call us if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, just need to vent. This is your safe place. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. We'll be right back after this.
The man who's helping to make hair loss history.
They wish to cure us, but I say we are the cure.
It's Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. Phone number 888-659-3727. Live from Los Angeles, I'm Spencer Kobren, and you are listening to and watching The Bald Truth, self-help radio for guys, and unfortunately for girls who get it, 2/3 of you as guys by the age of 35 will be dealing with some degree of hair loss. You see some of these stats sometimes on in articles and in the news. I don't even know where they get them from. 50% of hair loss sufferers, or 50% of men will suffer from hair loss by the age of 50. It's a much higher percentage than that. I guess they're not coming to the American Hair Loss Association for the statistics, and those are some pretty old stats. The truth of the matter is most guys by the age of 35 will notice something. Recession in the hairline, maybe a bald spot, general thinning. It's just the way that it is. It's a ticking time bomb. It will happen to the vast majority of men. That's just the way that it is. And unfortunately, it happens to a lot of women. 40% of the world's hair loss sufferers are women. Not just women dealing with menopause or, women who are 80 years old. Young, vital, beautiful women dealing with hair loss. It's a silent epidemic. We talk about it on this program openly, but it's not something that society really allows us to talk about. And that's what this broadcast is all about. We provide you with a place to talk about a subject that the world just, for whatever reason, even people who are affected by it, just will not talk about it. And because they don't talk about it, there is so much misinformation that's spread, that's perpetuated, that's put out there, even by some solid news organizations. I was talking about being interviewed today by this reporter who's writing a piece for a well-known magazine. And I was shocked at how much she knew and how much research she really did, even before she got to me. It's so unusual. I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes the idiots that I speak to that work for major publications, or the times that I've been on television or the radio, and I'm talking to learned, people, smart individuals, successful broadcasters. Even their producers can't even get their shit together to give them enough information to ask me reasonable questions. I was on the Dr. Oz show, his radio show, not his television show. And Dr. Oz is a brilliant guy. He's great at what he does. It was amazing. And this is not his thing. I think he's a cardiologist and a heart surgeon, right? But it was amazing how little he actually knew about the subject. And a few months after I was on his program, when we were both, there was a hair loss article in Reader's Digest magazine. And it wasn't written by Dr. Oz and Dr. Royston, but they were interviewed, and I was interviewed as well for this piece. And I couldn't fucking believe what they were talking about as far as how to keep your hair healthy. Talking about using horsehair, or I may be misquoting, but specific types of brushes. Talking about essential oils, and I couldn't even believe it. Could not fucking believe it. But that's what we're faced with here. And this is no knock on Dr. Oz. I like the guy. Guy's a smart guy. It's just this isn't his thing, I think that, I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, but I think that, we're obviously hypersensitive to this. We are hyper-informed for the most part, especially, this is kind of like, the show's been on the air for almost 15 years, and we have a very, very strong, kind of like a cult following. So the guys and the girls that, call us and that are regulars, they're part of this fraternity that no one wants to belong to, but they're part of it. So, I guess when I get emails from guys who are part of this fraternity asking me questions, about articles that are written or just complaining online about the kind of shit that's being written, I guess we all have to kind of step back and say, you know what, this isn't their thing. This is what we do. This is what we're really hyper focused on and interested in. But sadly, because, and I'm going to get back to the point where, when I was saying that society doesn't allow us to talk about this, sadly, because it is taboo, the general information, the basic information just isn't out there, which makes us all really vulnerable. I have guys on my message forum, and I read it today, and there's a huge thread on RU58841. Huge thread. There's a guy on another hair loss forum that had good results using this compound. And basically, it's a non-steroidal anti-androgen. And it was tested topically many years ago on mice and on monkeys. And it showed the potential for hair growth. It seemed to be working. There was a company back in the day, I think it was Roussel. Maybe, Joe, you're potted up. Maybe you could help me with this.
Yes, the name of the company is a French company called Rousseau and Clef that were researching RU8841.
Now, back in the day, I think it was in 97 or 98, it got into like phase 2. It entered phase 2 trials in Europe. Tremendous amount of excitement on alt.baldspot and all the old school places. And there were guys who were getting their hands on it, and they were mixing it, and they were working with it. And I have to tell you, and I'm not a naysayer, because there was some evidence that this compound was working. But there are now so many guys out there, and it's kind of made a resurgence in the hair loss world. People kind of forgot about it for a while. It's made a resurgence relatively recently. And everyone's getting their hands on it. They're suggesting that people use it. They're buying it from, companies that we really know very little about. And frankly, this is a drug that has not been approved topically for the use of male, for the application of treating male pattern baldness. Yet, there are probably thousands of guys, because of the message forums, and you know what? There's a huge thread on our forum that are using this stuff, putting it on their scalps, and hoping for the best. Now, I'm not seeing a lot of immediate adverse reactions or anything like that, but who the hell knows what's going to happen down the line? And frankly, the results that I've seen over the years, I think they're marginal. But I don't know, Joe, maybe you've seen some results that I'm unaware of.
No, well, I've heard this in the early 1980s about RU8841. But some people have been getting results, so they say, but I've seen nothing, could be answered no. But let me pose this question, Spencer. Like you say, they had to go through trials. Let me pose this question to you, if you don't mind, which a lot of our listeners want to know. How the hell is L'Oreal getting away with what they're doing? Circumventing the FDA and putting on something that affects the stem cells of the scalp without any FDA approval.
Well, and that's what I find fascinating. How are they doing it? And is their product really going to be affecting the stem cells in the scalp? Is there really going to be a real biological effect? And how is, you're right. That's the in our day, it was the $64,000 question, which back in the day seemed like a lot of money. So I can't answer that, except that it's basically going to be promoted as a cosmetic.
But they've released a lot of science. I don't know if you saw it online. They've released 4 pages of scientific information stating it affects the stem cells in the scalp, progenitor cells, creates a hypoxic environment like histogen, and they're doing all this. So they're putting it on the market without any FDA approval at all. This is what, just saying it's a cosmetic.
Right.
And so what? They do whatever they want.
Well,
that's what I don't understand. Why isn't histogen doing this? Why isn't allergen doing this? Why isn't Replicel doing this? Why isn't files on it, and the list goes on and on. This is my question, Spencer. Maybe this keeps you up nights. Hair loss sufferers always pose me this question.
It shouldn't keep you up nights. You have to understand, L'Oreal's basically they are a cosmetic company. They sell shampoos. That's what they do. So yes, they're showing a lot of science, but you also have to understand that these companies that are making face creams and all kinds of of supposed anti-aging products that you can buy in your supermarket, they show a lot of scientific data too, clinical trials, quote unquote, all kinds of crap. But the truth of the matter is they're not seeking approval from the FDA because they're not selling a drug. There may not be any real biological mechanism, any real changes happening with this product. So all I can tell you is I know everybody's excited about it. I hope that I'm wrong. I really do. I just can't see it doing what they claim it's going to do. Sorry.
You'll be attacked tomorrow for that.
I don't mind being attacked for it. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Are you kidding? I would drink the shit. I'd be bathing in it. I would get naked on the air, fill up a bathtub, and just roll around in it.
I'm not endorsing the product either, but you said the question that interests me: how the hell is L'Oreal get away with what they're doing? And no one questions them, and these other companies are scared to death of the FDA. This is why I can't comprehend. You know, I'm a hair loss expert. I can't comprehend this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's scared. No one's scared. These companies aren't scared shit of the FDA. They want FDA approval because they are working. Well, it depends on the company. Like Replicel.
They have trials. They keep going on. Trials.
Replicel, for instance, is really kind of working within FDA guidelines. They don't necessarily need FDA approval because they're not a drug, but they're working within FDA guidelines. Now, there's a reason for that, and it also, it adds tremendous credibility and legitimacy. And in the long run, if these guys are developing a product that's really going to work, that's what they want. Just the way that it is.
I mean, a lot of things FDA approvers don't do shit. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, I mean,
right?
Yeah. Listen, you're talking about like products like minoxidil, but they are proven to grow hair, and part of the FDA, part of putting something through the FDA is obviously to determine whether or not the product or the drug is safe, and of course, if it's effective. Now we know that minoxidil has marginal effects. I personally believe it's a Band-Aid. It only usually works temporarily, I should say. From all the information that I've gathered over the years, I do not use it anymore. I weaned myself off it many years ago. But I think for some people it is effective, and especially early on in hair loss, it could really help people buy time. Maybe that's what some of these products are going to be. I don't know. But Joe, I'm going to take a look. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to think sufferers in the chat room want me to answer one question, if you don't mind, Spencer. When will Allergen have news on the Phase 2? Phase 2 has been completed in June of 2012. They will have an announcement in October on the results of the Phase 2 for sufferers out there.
Well,
and they want to know why Allergen needs a Phase 3. That is FDA protocol. Am I correct, Spencer?
That's exactly correct. You're absolutely right. I mean,
even though it's approved already, it's approved drug by minor process,
Yeah, but also understand the approval process is a lot faster once it's approved for another application. So and it's already approved for a topical application around the eyes, which is a lot more, in my view, be a lot more difficult to kind of get through the FDA than something you're going to be putting on your scalp anyway. But yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen relatively quickly, and I just think we're going to have another tool in our arsenal, which is great. I don't know how effective it's going to be, but I'm reading the chat while we're speaking, and
right.
I did take the time to read the forum today. Like I say, I read it before the program. I actually try to stay off of it a lot of the time. I kind of let things happen. We have moderators. Let things go the way they're going to go. But it never changes, Joe. We've been doing this for a long time, from the alt.bald spot days to today, to the old regrowth days to today. It's always a new bunch of kids that are constantly pontificating and battling on message forums about products and drugs and about future treatments and shit like that. And everyone thinks the cure is right around the corner. It hasn't happened yet. And I just want to let people know that they got to figure out a way to live their lives right now. You haven't figured that out, Joe, so I'm not talking to you. But all you kids out there who are waiting... But all you kids out there who are waiting for the cure, who are waiting for a Histogen or Replicel or whatever it is, great, we're getting closer. But it's also possible it's not going to happen. It may be something else. I know that one day we will get past this. But I see the battling that goes on, the message forums, and everyone is just, it's all on, there's so much misinformation, and people glean stuff from one website and bring it over to another website, and then they have all these conclusions and this. I mean, and there's guys out there that just they read the message forums, they read these studies, and all of a sudden they think they're experts, and they pass this information on to unsuspecting young guys. The bottom line is we have 2 FDA-approved products that we know work. There's a lot of things in the pipeline. Hope to God these things come to fruition. You got some good hair transplant doctors out there. You got some people who are working on more advanced hair transplant techniques that we're still not 100% sure about. But that's what we have today. Or good hair pieces. That's it. You got to deal with it. Life is too short to put everything on hold waiting for Histogen news. Or Replicel news. Go ahead.
I'm not one to. I can't. I have to interject. I'm a person who's virtually bedridden on the message forum, just waiting for news. I've lived my life like this for 35 years.
I know that, and I'm reading the chat, and Billy's like, hair pieces, please. Listen, dude, hair piece isn't for you, Billy. But there are guys out there that it works for. I told you, I know a guy, he is incredibly successful, one of the most highly functioning human beings I've ever met. I admire this guy. I mean, the way that he's able to, time manage and just he's a self-made millionaire in a very, very difficult business. Wears a hairpiece, met his wife in his hairpiece, has an incredibly smoking wife. And this guy's a really good-looking dude, and he looks good in his hairpiece. And he just said, listen, this is the way I want to live my life. I like myself better with hair. And, I admire the guy. I really admire the guy. For him, it works. And his wife, young girl, younger than him, can give a shit. So there are people out there that pull it off. They live their lives and they move on. And while it's not a perfect thing, they're wearing a wig. It is what it is. For them, they're equipped to deal with it. So these are the options out there, Billy.
Well, one thing is a fact, the Latisse will be on the market real soon. I think we could really make that statement.
Yeah, and again, Billy, another guy. I'm sure he has a fat wallet. How do you know when he met this? How do you know when he met this girl? How do you know he didn't have any money when he met this girl? His wallet was not even close to as fat as it is now when he met this woman. He just has to be a good-looking, cool guy that's able to deal with, wearing hairpiece. People are so cynical. It's unbelievable. Let's take a phone.
Well, Spencer, I'll be honest with you. I study people. I'm a student of body language. I see a lot of baldy men and beautiful women.
All the time, dude.
It's a fact.
We work in a world where, we're hyper-sensitive and hyper-affected by this. But our world is really filled with, there's different ends of the spectrum, obviously, but some of the most affected are in our world.
Well, let me say this quickly. The most beautiful woman went out with me. And, I'm a hair loss sufferer, as you know.
Yes.
But, I wasn't wearing a hat back then or a bandage. But then they got to realize how psychotic I really was. And then they got me.
Yeah, and it wasn't about...
because of what attracted. It was because of my psychosis and lack of confidence.
Because of your hair. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Let's take a phone call, Joe, all right?
Thank you, Spencer.
Hey, who's this? You're on the air.
Hey, Spencer, this is Vic from D.C.
Hey, what's happening, Vic?
Hey, not much. It's great to see you back on the air. I mean,
thanks, man.
I give props to Andrew and Joe. I think they did a great job, but, I certainly hope that you decide to stay on for as long as you're comfortable doing it.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I'll be on for a while. Don't worry about it. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, a couple things to talk about, but I wanted to give you an update on. I told I'd call back in to let you know my thoughts and my decision on the hair transplant, and I think at this point, after doing my due diligence, I feel I'm going to have to pass on the hair transplant. And the reason is...
Congratulations, dude. I think that's a great decision.
So thank you very much. And the reason is that, and your words keep coming up in my mind, once you're cut, you're cut. And I think that's phenomenal advice, because let me tell you this. I already know a ton. I'm drawing a parallel to the world of tattoos. Now, tattoo is a very permanent cosmetic change to the body, and I know a ton of people who have tattoo regret. Now, they have laser removal and all this stuff to get rid of it. So tattoo is, it kind of makes me think that, this is a very, very permanent thing, and until I'm 100% sure, I just can't take the leap.
And so, I'm glad that we were able to advise you well, because you made a good decision. I tell everybody, if you're not 100% sure, if you're not equipped to deal with possible failure, then don't have any kind of cosmetic surgery. And a hair transplant is a big deal. And now everyone's like, oh, you can go to this guy and go to that guy, get FUE. It's relatively scarless. The truth of the matter is, anything can happen. It can, and if you're not equipped for that, then, and listen, I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time. Hair transplants are great. They change people's lives for the better. Many people. But there is always a possibility of things not being perfect. And it could just be your expectations. It could just be, you know what, I spent $10,000 and, I wasn't butchered. Things looked good. Everything grew. But I'm not that happy with it. Maybe it was a waste of time. It could be as simple as that. So unless you are just desperate to get it done, you do not think you can move on with your life without a hair transplant, then I say hold off. It's always going to be there.
Well, I appreciate that, and certainly that's the choice I've made at the moment. I wanted to bring up another interesting topic. I realized one day I was just sitting around, of course, hair loss is nothing that makes anyone happy. I was definitely depressed about my hair loss.
Right.
I realized, and I was just sitting by myself, and I was like, you know what? I haven't had a drink in a long time. So I got myself a bottle of wine, and lo and behold, after my second drink, hair loss went away from all my problems.
That's right. Why do you think I drink so much?
It was phenomenal. I think that there are 3 proven medications for hair loss: minoxidil, finasteride, and alcohol.
You know what? You may be right, dude. That is awesome. That is fucking awesome.
So, alcohol is not going to cut me up, and it's not permanent either. So
no, I mean, sometimes you gotta have a couple of belts, man. You gotta let loose.
I agree, but it's so phenomenal because, I've been calling this show and I've been watching your show for so long. I really don't drink much. Maybe once in a while I have a beer, nothing to get intoxicated per se. But that night I was just like, okay, I need some alcohol. So I had 2-3 glasses, and then I ended up finishing about a bottle and a half of wine. And guess what? I had no care or concern about hair loss at all.
Yeah, you're watching TV, maybe you put on a little porn, whatever. You're in a different world, man. So I get it.
Absolutely, and I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should just start drinking instead of thinking about hair transplants because And you know what? I think I could do that. So I've come to grips with the fact that alcohol is my new good friend, and I'm going to just use it as a way, not to become an alcoholic or anything, but, when things really hit the fan, and I'm like, you know what, I need a drink, it's going to be there.
Well, I'm gonna give you some. Listen, that's a great story. It's very funny, but I'm gonna give you a little advice, for some fatherly advice, and for someone who enjoys drinking himself. I learned this at a young age, that I really try to only drink when I'm in a good mood, because when you drink when you're in a bad mood just to forget, A, that could become addictive, and B, if you do it too often, eventually it doesn't work, and you kind of just become, alcohol is a depressant. So use it sparingly, enjoy it, and if you kind of just feel like getting out of your head, say, you know what, I'm going to have a good time tonight, and I'm going to have a couple of drinks. But I would probably avoid it if you're really depressed.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Well, anyways, I just wanted to call in to say thank you again. Your show and your advice, again, every time you say once you're cut, you're cut, you're telling the absolute truth. And thank you so much, Spencer. You mean a whole lot to the community. Hope you stay on. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful week.
Well, Vic, listen, thank you so much for the call. I'm glad you made a decision that you can deal with. And, that's what we're here for, man. So, just hang in there. And how old are you again?
I'm 28.
28. Look, man, there's life after hair loss, whether you decide to do something about it or not. So, I'm glad that you're happy with your decision.
Well, thank you so much, Spencer. Right, all the best for you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. 888-659-3727. Let's take another call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
This is Marcus from New York City, and I'm definitely uncomfortable in my own skin and man enough to admit it.
What's happening, Marcus? How are you?
Well, I got to first of all, happy 9/11 to everyone. I know that sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
However, Andrew was so trenchant earlier with that comment, because I was walking around the city today. Frankly, I didn't even know it was 9/11 until about 5 p.m. this evening. But I got to also admit that when 9/11 actually happened, I didn't know it then either, because I was screwing all night long. I didn't get up till about 1 p.m.
Right. Good for you, man.
It was very cool, and I was dating a woman who was writing for Law and Order at the time, and hey, we went downtown. We got really close to it by Warren Street, but frankly, it was a weird prism to see it through her eyes, because she was looking at it as a story.
Yeah.
It was strange, She was like, "Oh wow, this is a great script." It's
sure.
like, please.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. That journalist, you hit on something too, Spence, because I've also noticed in my field that most of them are just superficial reality, but when somebody really does their research, they get it, and they get it so quickly. They can assimilate all this information.
That's right.
And they can put it back out in some really good, simple language.
But it's surprising that so few actually take the time to do their research. And those that do, there are these reporters that do a little research, but they still don't get it. This woman really, she understood it. She understood the emotional aspects of it in a way that no one's ever presented it that way to me when they were interviewing me. I thought it was great.
Well, I would actually echo and then magnify what she said. I mean, beyond desperation, come on, let's be honest. It's despair. It's depression. It's despondency. It's devastation. I mean, frankly, it's never about victory after hair loss. It's only about avoiding defeat.
That's right. Well, that's well said.
It's just a bad kick in the gut. Talking about bad, so I was walking around this afternoon, and two girls were talking to each other on the street. And I was within earshot, and one of them said, "Gee, I'm having a bad hair day." That's what she said to her friend. And I felt like turning to her and say, "Are you kidding me?" Because you know what, her hair looked pretty darn good. But right. I just wanted to say, do you know what it's like to have a bad hair day every day of your life?
That would have really creeped her out, dude.
I know, but I was so tempted to do it.
It would have been great, though.
I was so tempted to do it, and who knows where it would have led.
Well, I find that interesting, though. Well, that's true. With you could have ended up sleeping with her. But what I find interesting and sad is like when I read, like I'll go over to the Women's Hair Loss Project and I'll read some of the stories of what's going on over there. And these are young women who are in the prime of their lives for the most part. These are mostly young women who are dealing with androgenetic alopecia. They're losing their hair. They are making decisions to wear wigs or to get bonded systems or to try to take medication or to get PRP or whatever. And they're dealing with what we deal with, but they're girls. And then when you hear girls on the street, talking about having a bad hair day, or someone's complaining about being a little overweight, or they feel fat today, or whatever it is, think about what these women have to deal with.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the comment I heard today was so incongruous compared to what really goes on. And, you and I, at least speaking for myself, I've got my narcissist inner female that's eating at me about hair loss. If I were a real woman and I had that outer female and all the images that they see and they stare at in the female magazines, the women's magazines.
Oh yeah,
I would die. I would be like Joe.
Yeah. Joe, you there?
Yes. I'm potted up?
Yeah, you're potted up.
Joe.
You want to be female?
I was saying, if I were.
Oh, that's cool, man. Go ahead, elaborate.
No, would I want to be female? I mean, frankly, I would rather, wear the piece than have to hold the piece. You know what I'm saying? When I mean the piece, I don't mean the piece. Okay, good.
Well, let me ask you this. As a guy, and I don't know how I think I know Joe's answer. If you met a woman who was absolutely drop dead gorgeous and you found out that she was gluing hair on her head because she was balding,
right?
How would you feel about that?
Well, given my own life experience, I could easily handle that.
Now, what about the majority of guys out there? How do you think they would feel?
Oh, the majority of guys would run, because here's the other calculation that goes on when people are mating. They're namely doing that, mating. They're thinking about DNA. They're thinking about, God, I don't want to pass this down to my siblings.
Right.
I mean my offspring.
Right.
But given what I've gone through, Joe's gone through, and you to an extent, Spencer, have gone through, we can clearly empathize with a woman who's losing her hair.
Absolutely. I think my feed just died, or GFQ's feed died. Joe.
Yeah, Spencer,
you went black.
Wow.
Yeah, you went black on the
God forbid! God forbid!
What?
You said you just died. God forbid, Spencer.
I didn't say. I said he went black, man. He's
no, Spencer said he just died.
Well, that's really weird. I think.
Do you think did that go out over the air?
I think I'm back now.
Hey, Spence, you're live.
What?
You're back.
Okay, good. Thanks.
We'll put it this way, Spence. Hey, if that were the moment to die, at least we did it, all three of us together.
Oh, that would be awesome. How awesome would it be if I just died on the air? I'd finally get some real press.
Yeah, that's as good as Eric Bogosian and radio.
That's right. That was that was one of my favorite movies. Actually, maybe I'll watch that tonight.
Excellent piece. So, Andrew, we're back up live. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Last piece, and then I'm out of here. What do Nora Ephron, J.C. Duffy, and Woody Harrelson have in common?
What?
They're all sufferers.
They've got, to one degree or another, or they're instructive. Yeah. I consider, for instance, Nora Ephron, R.I.P., God love her. I consider her the godmother of hair loss sufferers. Why? Even in her last days, her dying days, but especially all the times before then in her good days, her hairstylist was like her best friend, because it was better, as she would like to say, than going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Yeah.
Good hair gives you a lift.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with J.C. Duffy, the guy who does Fusco Brothers.
I am not.
Good little comic strip. I swing between him and the Dinette set and a couple others. But anyhow, he had this one panel where he's a lawyer. He's appearing in front of a judge, and he's got his client in the witness chair. And the lawyer leans over to the judge, and he says, "Your Honor, does my client look like, how do you say it? Okay, Your Honor, does this look like a toupee that would commit adultery?"
It's terrible, man.
Isn't it? But
you gotta laugh.
Think of the undercurrent of truth in that.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's intense. And then finally, Woody Harrelson, for anybody who's thinking about a hairpiece. And, some days when I get black, I have to think that way too.
Right.
But anyone who saw The Hunger Games,
oh yeah,
they know what a difference a piece makes.
Absolutely. And let me tell you something, man. I mean, I people are so anti-pieces, and I get it. I get it. You're wearing a prosthetic on your head. You got to glue it on or whatever, however you're putting it on. But there are guys out there that do, wear it well. Look at William Shatner.
Yep.
I mean, they wear it well. And you know what? The bottom line is people just kind of forget. If it's a good piece, people just kind of like, okay, they just kind of accept it. They're not staring at it. And that's just the way the guy looks. And he's able to move on with his life and be comfortable in his own skin and go out and meet people. Yes, he has to tell his whoever he's intimate with that he's wearing a piece unless it's obvious. But there's worse things, man. There's worse things to admit to somebody, to somebody you're with. At least in my opinion.
No doubt. But hey, if it ever came to that for me, and some days I get pushed to the wall on it. Although honestly, the glue, the thought of absorbing that glue, whatever self-preservation gene I have in me makes me think that, wow, come on, that stuff cannot be good for you. But beyond that, if I had to go and make the selection, I think I'd go in there and say, hey, man, I want either the Ken Burns, the Woody Harrelson Hunger Games, or the Wes Anderson,
Yeah. Yeah.
Marcus, you don't mind, can I pose a question to you?
Please, go ahead.
If there was a process by which you could have artificial hair implanted to your scalp, it would last, like, say, 5 to 10 years without being rejected by the body.
Right.
Would you do it?
If it had no to low health risks and it looked good, yes, I would do it.
Yes, so would I.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Listen, Marcus, always great to hear you, man. I'm glad that.
My pleasure.
I'm glad you're doing well. You sound great, and
Can I just castigate Marcus 1 second?
Yeah.
You should call more often. I'll have a castigate for not calling.
He should call more often. Absolutely.
Well, Joe, I shall. Although I gotta remind you, the last time I called Joe, you basically cut me off and George because we were talking about cancer, and I understand. I understood.
Yes,
because
that's
that's
my opinion is worse than cancer. That's a fact.
Right.
And
Right.
speaking of
But
George,
you thought
what happened to George?
George disappeared,
I'm
man.
sorry, I'm sure he's around. Really, George disappeared?
Well, he hasn't called in a long time. I'm sure he's fine though.
Got to get on back.
All right, guys. Listen, we're gonna take
no,
another call.
But the final thing was, no, Joe, that's not the reason I didn't call back. But I'm glad to hear that you're inviting me once again to be a regular on the show. I hope to do so.
You're always welcome, Marcus, man.
Well, Marcus, I wish to give Spencer your contact information. I'd love to meet you in Manhattan. As you know, I met Spencer knows I met one of his associates in Manhattan.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, are you sure, Marcus? You want me to do that?
I have no problem hooking up with Joe.
All right.
Not in the hookup, but the
Yeah.
you want to hook up, Marcus?
Look, after a couple of drinks, you never know.
You never know
Joe,
what happened, right? You never know.
Joe, we'll meet in Lower Manhattan, and we'll figure it out. Okay.
I'll offer you some medication.
All right.
Your alcohol.
Let's take another call, Marcus. Man, thanks a lot. And I'll
have a good night, guys.
I'll think about hooking you guys up.
Okay.
All right. Take it easy.
Well, I appreciate that, Spencer.
888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Spencer, my friend, how are you doing?
Hey, Johnny, what's happening, man?
I thought you were dead, Johnny.
Pardon me?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I want to say, Spencer, you and your better half on this day, I know you're heroes for surviving the heinous acts of terrorists, and America's stronger, and it's bigger than hair loss or anything else that we've encountered, and
Absolutely.
God bless us, and it's great to be an American, isn't it?
I agree wholeheartedly, man.
Joe,
I'm a true
my brother
patriot.
my hair loss brother from another mother, Spencer, he castigated me last week for disagreeing with him. He said I was attacking him.
Really?
When I wasn't attacking him, I just disagreed with him.
What were you attacking him about?
I don't know. He said I was attacking him. I can't get on the in the chat room. I'm having all sorts of problems here, technical difficulties here. But Joe, I was not attacking you. I disagreed with you. We can agree to disagree, but I just disagree with you on hair loss. I mean hair transplants. He says that you can't get a good look out of it. And I disagree. I think people like Joe Tronics and others have gotten.
Listen, Joe's been saying that for years, and I disagree with him. You know,
and I understand that. But you know, Joe, you're still my hair loss brother from another mother, even though you hate me.
You know, I'm going to be meeting Joe.
Johnny, please, Johnny, I love you. Please don't say that.
I'm going to be meeting Joe Tillman and Spencer Specs in person for the first time. They're actually they're coming to my home, which is creepy to say the least. But I'm just kidding, guys. But
hell, Spencer, you only live once.
And they're coming here for doing a documentary, and Dr. Alan Feller is going to be here as well. But I can't even imagine it's going to be like a really bizarre situation. Is everyone just going to be like, all of a sudden we're just going to start digging through each other's hair? How's it going to work? Or are we just going to ignore it? Because
I think what you do is you first get some, some good alcohol, and everybody takes a few belts, and after a while, set out the pool.
I'm telling them, dude, I got to be on camera. No one is touching my hair. You could view it. You can kind of look around and just don't touch it.
Well, I've got the feed up. I just can't get in the chat room, and the sculpture looks outstanding as always.
Oh, thank you, man.
You know that.
I appreciate.
I like the blue shirt.
That looks great, man.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
I saw Spencer last month in June. His hair looks, I give it a 10 out of 10.
It does. I mean, you would never know this guy even, had an inkling of any problem. It looks really good. I
appreciate it. According to some guy in the...
so does your teeth, man.
Thank you. According to some guy on Ball Truth Talk message forums, I have... What did he call my comb over? It was some sort of. It was pretty insulting and funny. I had to laugh.
Yeah. Extreme come over. He said something like that.
Or he said it looks. He goes. He has very little hair, and doesn't he realize how stupid he looks?
Well, he's just jealous. But
I'm a hair loss expert. I saw your hair a month ago. You look like you're full out of hair.
Oh, dude, come on! Joe, like I said, people need to talk about me. If they stop talking about me, I become irrelevant. I do talk about
laugh all the way to the bank.
I do talk about my comb over, and if that's what this kid, I think he's a kid, wants to focus on, if he doesn't like my hairstyle, fuck him. What do I care?
That's right.
You don't really have a comb over, Spence. You have a very, very slight comb over. I would say very slight.
And that's coming from an expert.
I'm
an expert. No one. I'm a hair loss expert. I wouldn't give Spencer a second look. I mean, he's very handsome. I look at him for that reason. I give him a second look. But I mean, you wouldn't notice any hair loss in this cat.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I'd also like to mention, Spencer, that Andrew did an outstanding job last week keeping the conversation going and keeping the interest up.
It's not easy, man. It's not an easy show to do, especially since he's not that knowledgeable
yet. He did a great job.
He's not
he really did.
He's just learning.
I have to tip my hat to him. He, for someone that's not versed in the hair loss world, he did a really good job.
Yeah, you know what?
How about me, Johnny?
Well, you always do a great job.
Joe, you definitely... Joe, I mean, you're the Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson. No, it doesn't matter who's the villain host, like we were calling Andrew the Joan Rivers to fill in for Johnny Carson. You made it all happen, Joe.
I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna give Joe a big compliment here. You know, I was on radio, on real radio, terrestrial radio, for 9.5 years before I went over to satellite. For years, every program director on every station I was on was like, "Why the hell do you allow this guy to call in every week?" They didn't get it. They couldn't understand it. He says the same shit every week, you know. And in radio, everything's got to be moving quickly. You know, if the subject isn't changing, if you know the topic is the same, they don't get it. They don't understand why people would continue to listen. And I'm like, listen, Joe's my boy. He's the first caller to this program, and people in this community that you guys don't understand love this guy. So I don't care if you think he's boring. I don't care if you think, and believe me, I don't think you're boring, Joe. I don't care if you think that it's you know the same shit every week. I'm going to allow that call to come through.
Well, you know, Spencer, this hair loss epidemic, disease, whatever we want to label it, it permeates the mind and soul. And Joe has been someone that's been a spokesman that he relates and he's able to communicate how it affects those of us out here.
Absolutely.
And he's been very vigilant.
And there's a little bit of Joe in all of us.
And I appreciate that.
I don't agree with Joe on a lot of things as far as, you know, the way that he looks at life and the way that he's lived his life because of this. But, you know, I understand it, and there's a little bit of him in all of us.
Exactly.
And that's why I think he's an important aspect to the show. And, you know, that's it. You know, and I've told these guys. And then when I went over to satellite, I never forget another person. And I'm not going to mention this person's name because he was actually a program director for the New York station that I was on many years ago, and then he's still on Sirius XM. And he's like, you know, I'm listening to the show. I listened to the show 3 weeks in a row, and you have the same caller. Why do you take his call? You know, these guys just don't get it. That's why I'm glad that I'm completely independent. I'm glad that we're doing this, you know, with GFQ. I'm glad that I kind of, you know, broke ties with traditional radio, and we're doing internet broadcasting, you know, the way that we're doing it now.
And your audience is growing.
It is absolutely growing. It's bigger. Yes. It's bigger than ever. You know, I was contacted by I'm not going to say by who. I don't even know why I said that, but I was asked to write another book, and I was talking about writing another book. I had another book in the can years ago, which I had this infomercial deal that ended up being a complete disaster. I decided not to put the book out, and so I had this manuscript. I was actually contacted to put another book out. Since I have a pretty strong manuscript right now, I'm considering it. It's still going to take me a long time to really update everything to get it out. And I'm thinking, you know, now that I have this kind of this built-in audience, especially with this in the huge online presence, you know, the message forum is just, we are the most trafficked hair loss message forum in the world, and it's 3.5 years old. It's crazy how much traffic. And I can say that with all confidence. The other message forum owners are going to be pissed, but the numbers don't lie. It is the way that it is. You know, I could sell 1 million copies of my book. Do I give it to a publisher, or do I do it myself? You know, so these are the things that, you know, and these are high-class problems. But the reason for that is because of this audience. It's
good problems to have.
It's because of this audience. It's because of this program. It's because of what we've been able to develop over the years. And I couldn't do it without you guys. You know, Johnny Ohio, you're part of the show too now. You've been calling in for a few years now.
I'm part of the Freak Squad.
That's right.
Johnny's a big star.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question, Spencer. I was watching the E! Channel and happened to come across the Kardashians. And I noticed the Rob Kardashian was paranoid about hair loss. And he went to this place called HCR out in California someplace. Does that sound right? Or HRC? I may have the acronym wrong.
HRC.
HCR, yeah. He went to some place for, I guess, place that they deal with hair loss, hair restoration and such. And was wondering if you were, because I know you guys live in you're not far from where they live.
They actually live in the next community. We are in the same town. We live in the same town.
Right. And I can't believe that with their connections that they don't know some of the...
Well, you know what's funny? I don't watch the show, so...
Well, I just happened to be just flipping through the channels, and I seen it, and I'm like, well, what the heck is this? And this guy's, I seen something on the description that said hair loss. Well, I caught my attention, so I'm watching, and I'm thinking, you would think that, the connections that those folks have, that they would know the best from the best.
Well, come on, look at what happened to poor Bruce Jenner.
Yeah, you know what? You're exactly right. He did get sort of fixed, I guess, from what I've read, that, he had some of the plastic surgery reversed.
Well, now he looks good, and also because he started to age again, so things started to get looser. But,
he looks normal.
Yeah, but for a while, it was horrible, and I felt so bad for and this is a guy who's a very handsome dude who just wanted to maintain his looks.
An Olympic hero.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, and then the world's focus is on his face, and that's horrible. It's horrible.
It is.
Look what happened. Look at Mickey Rourke. So that's a good question.
What I don't understand is, with these folks have probably more resources than a guy like me living in Ohio. That they would know that some of the better doctors like that are out there in California or up in Vancouver or wherever.
They have no fucking clue. They have no
really?
clue. Look, I'm getting I'm getting
but
more involved.
Spencer, I think that's going to change, though. I really do. As you were talking about your audience growing.
Yeah.
This kid, this Andrew Zarian, this kid is the tip of the iceberg. He's, I kid him and tell him he's the king of the cyber media. It's going to explode soon. I mean, this kid's going to be big.
Right. I agree.
I mean, I believe. I mean, he really is building a foundation that's really going to take off. And I think that the Bald Truth, there's definitely going to be along for the ride. And then people like the Kardashians and everyone, they're all going to know what's going on here soon.
Well, let's, your lips to God's ears, man. I definitely have a lot of confidence in Andrew. He's definitely built a great network.
You know what? He really knocked it out of the park last week, Spencer.
Oh, yeah, he did a great job.
I don't know if you got to listen to any of the show.
I did.
But, man, I mean, he really kept the conversation going. He was he was asking questions. Dude, I was very impressed.
I'm going to post it on the Bald Truth. Do you think that I would do that if I didn't think that he did a great job? And
man, I was very impressed. And like, I have to give Joe. Joe kept the conversation going, and Joe Tillman, who called in. Joe from Staten Island, Joe Tillman, who called in and was fielding questions. It was a very entertaining show. But I'm going to get off here, Spencer. I just want to say to this great country we live in that, I thank God that your life was spared, your significant other was spared, that you're able to come on here week after week and do what you're doing. And it's just a testimony that what a great country we live in, and no one can kill the American spirit.
Amen to that, man. And I appreciate the call. I'm gonna take a quick call before I close up shop.
Joe,
go ahead.
Johnny, you're great. I tried. Go ahead.
Well, Joe, real quickly, thank you for your service during 9/11 and before that. People like you, Joe, are truly heroes of this country.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'll hang up on that note.
You are a great American, and that's just the Bald Truth, man.
Well, take her easy, guys.
All right, man. Take it easy, Johnny.
What a beautiful boy you are, Johnny.
Hey, who's this? You're on the air.
Hey, Spencer, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Who's this?
That's Generic John.
Generic John.
What's your Yeah, a few weeks ago we talked. You're a cancer survivor, crazy theories.
Oh, that's right, man. You're the abstinence guy.
There we go. You got it right that time. No, you got it right. Abstinence, as long as you don't say masturbation. Yeah.
So what's happening?
You always confuse it. Oh, good. I told you I'd gotten married about 6 months ago in court, but I actually had my official wedding 2 weeks ago, so we were on a honeymoon and stuff.
Oh, mazel tov, man. That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. I'm probably going to start losing a lot of hair in these next few months, but who knows. So I was wondering, though, I sent over an email.
Now, you're talking about, you saying you're going to lose a lot of hair because what, you're going to be banging so much?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
But,
yeah,
again,
that's a high
as long as I can-
it's a high class problem, dude. And I bet you don't. But let's see. I hope you don't.
No, yeah, I mean, I probably won't, though, because I've gotten the laxity of my scalp in the areas that I was balding as loose as it was, 5 years ago before I started losing hair. So I probably won't lose any hair now. But had my scalp remained tight and then ejaculated excessively, then I would have progressed the hair loss. It's the two-part approach, Can't have one without the other.
Your phone is really freaking out, man. I could hardly hear you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. So I was wondering though, did your moderators alert you that I sent it? I don't know if I should say moderators, but I just sent it to the regular email, and instead of having you to have to, kind of, filter through messages and the back and forth on the forum, everything, all
What?
the.
How did you? I didn't get it. How did you address it?
I just sent it to the regular Bald Truth email, but I put regarding the Spencer show, and it came over from a balding backwards at hotmail.com.
Okay, I will.
Or rather,
I'll check. I mean, maybe the subject matter wasn't that compelling. The subject title, so maybe that's why I didn't get it. But I will look for it.
do you want me to resend it with a more with a?
Yeah, just say Spencer told me. I called the show, put today's date. Spencer said to send this, something like that.
Okay.
And I'll get it.
Okay, I think it was somewhere along those lines is what I put it. So maybe I know they get a ton of emails. So.
Yeah.
But it just has a lot of the links and interesting information there, and I actually came across the actual published document from Merck. The study that came out that made them go and start making Propecia. And it's pretty interesting if you look at these guys with these tiny prostates that had the 5-alpha reductase, some of the side effects they encountered, they were still able to have all masculine features because your body's creating DHC elsewhere. They still had some of the masculine features, but the ones that they lacked were the acne, the facial hair, and the hair loss. It was just pretty interesting to me. They have these pea-sized prostates that look like they've never been used, whereas ours are getting larger as we're getting older.
Your phone is crapping out again.
Is it? All right. Well, I just wanted to just give you the heads up. I'll resend it back over though and put some that stands out a little more. But if you read it, it's a real short page. It'll be
listen.
pretty interesting.
I'll read it. I will. I'll look. I can go into the email myself and look for it. I just don't. Usually stuff is forwarded to me. But I'm glad you reminded me. I'll check it out and I'll read it for sure, man.
Well, it's just about a page anyway, so and I'm sure you'll like it if you kind of dive into it a little bit of an open mind. And I know you're an open-minded person, so
I do my
sure
best.
You will, and if you dive into it, you'll like it. And love the program, love the website. You guys are doing a good job. And when everything starts to blow up, and I'm sure it is the cutting edge technology coming out, I'm sure you guys have kind of positioned yourself pretty well, and will be the front runner as far as the forums and radio shows go. So,
well, I appreciate that, dude, and congratulations on your wedding.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the call. Take care.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Joe, man, we're going to close up shop. It's 10 minutes after the hour, and I figured I'd stay on a little longer tonight. I don't know why I figured that, but I did.
I take 5 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank God that your life was spared on 9/11, Spencer, because God forbid you had perished. Many of other people would have perished as a result of that. I think you know exactly what I mean. Hair loss sufferers, we wouldn't have had your support, and their lives would have been destroyed as mine was without having you out there.
Well, dude, I appreciate that, and believe me, I'm glad I'm here too. So, and I'm glad I'm still doing the show. And yes, I do get frustrated sometimes, and I will voice my frustrations just like anybody else. But I don't think I'm going anywhere. I really, the amount of positive emails and responses that I get to our work is just, it's overwhelming. And, when I get calls like I got tonight and people really appreciate what we're doing here, Joe, I mean, how can I give something like that up?
Well, I want you to know, I think occasionally you should take a vacation, and me and Andrew will be more than happy to fill in for you, because I know the stress you're under every day with dealing with hair loss sufferers. And I think you should take some time off once in a while.
The stress isn't from the hair loss sufferers. The stress is from the crazy motherfuckers in the business and some crazy mother effers who are hair loss sufferers. But that's the stressful part. But for the most part, if you can kind of put that aside, which sometimes it's hard to because you tend to focus on some of the negatives that you have to deal with in life. But when you put that aside, there's so much good that we're still able to do, Joe. So I'm not going anywhere, but I will be handing over the reins more often to you guys. I'll tell you that.
Well, me and Andrew are very happy to fill in for you, Spencer. You know that.
Right. We got to. I don't even think Andrew ever read my book, for crying out loud. I got to get him.
Well, I helped him all. I'm a hair loss expert than he is, but he is more of a radio personality than me. So we work together as a team. What do you think about that?
Well, you guys will figure it out. All right, guys.
Well, I want to say quickly, Spencer, you are the only positive in my life.
Well, now that's a lot of fucking pressure, Joe.
Well, you're the only. I wake up in the morning close to you, man. That's all I could say.
What about your children?
Well, they don't understand, man. You're the only person out there who understands. You're a dear, dear friend.
Well, Joe, I appreciate that. I feel the same way. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. So
Will you be doing the show next week during the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah next Tuesday, man?
Yeah, I think I'll work. I'm not religious, so I think I'll be working.
Well, if you're not, let me just say this: Lashana Tova.
Thank you, Joe. Lashana Tova to you. All right,
God
dude.
bless you.
I'm going to pot you down. The website's thebaldtruth.com, of course, to check out archives of the radio broadcast. You can go to baldtruthtalk.com, which, got to say it again, we are now the #1 most trafficked hair loss forum, period, in the world. And we did it in 3.5 years. And I'm proud of that fact, but I'm also very appreciative that you guys, find the forum so compelling and, enjoyable. I'm sure hair loss isn't enjoyable, but the fact that you guys frequent the forum and interact with each other, all in all, while there's some negativity on there, I think it's a great thing, and a lot of people are being helped. So check out baldtruthtalk.com if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers and, read some really great information. But remember, it's the internet. Take some of what you read with a grain of salt. You just have to understand that there's a lot of unhappy people out there. There's a lot of misinformed people out there. But if you understand how you utilize that forum, it can be incredibly beneficial. And there's a lot of great information on baldtruthtalk.com. Also, check out AmericanHairLoss.org for the American Hair Loss Association. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.